The brain is a target of organophosphates, which are a group of pesticides and nerve agents that act on the nervous system by disrupting the body's use of phosphates. A recent study has shown that even a single exposure to organophosphates can be enough to cause changes in the brain's structure and function. It's not only farmers that have been exposed to organophosphates. Since their invention, these chemicals have been found in urban environments in places where people don't normally work with them, like in schools or even at home. They're found in house dust, Dr. Havanesian told the class, in the air and on surfaces. And they're persistent, so they don't break down. They can be in your body for months. It's been shown that even low levels of organophosphates can cause harm to the brain. There's a real danger, she warned the class. We know from a number of studies that a single exposure can cause problems with memory, attention, and ability to concentrate, and in children, changes in IQ. That's what we call neurodevelopmental effects. She didn't tell them that this was also true for adults. She just said, and it's not just the children who are at risk either. Adults are affected too, especially if they're older. Their ability to think clearly and solve problems is damaged. She was very careful to say that she wasn't saying that organophosphates cause dementia, which is what the old theory said. But you can see, she explained that the organophosphate-based pesticides are certainly having an effect on the brain and on intelligence. The second part of the lecture was about the way in which our genes react to our environment and how this can be harmful. This is known as gene-environment interaction. Dr. Havanesian told the class about a study of farm workers exposed to organophosphates. We found, she told us, that there were some people who were highly vulnerable to this chemical, and these were people who carried a certain variant of a gene called ACE. She told us that this gene codes for an enzyme in the body called an acetylcholinesterase, which breaks down the organophosphate. There's a mutation of the ACE gene in some people, she explained. And when exposed to organophosphates, their bodies aren't able to break them down as quickly, and so they build up in the body, head, and the brain. She told us that this gene variant is common in many places around the world, including Africa, Asia, and Latin America. It's thought that the mutation arose as an adaptation to the use of organophosphate pesticides, she told us. People who carried it were able to live in areas where these pesticides were used, and their bodies were able to break them down. But they were also more resistant to the effects of these pesticides, so that they could work longer without becoming ill themselves. What happened, she said, is that some farmers who carried this gene variant bred with each other, and their offspring carried both genes. And so now most of us carry this variant of the gene, even though organophosphates were banned decades ago. So this mutation is not only harming us now, in our day-to-day life, it's actually harming us in the past too, she told us. And there's more bad news. This isn't the only harmful gene variant we carry. We all carry genes that make us susceptible to diseases like cancer, heart disease, and even mental illness. She told us that some of these diseases are caused by the environment we live in now, but others are caused by our genetic inheritance. So there's no doubt that genes are important for our health. They determine who we are and what we are at risk for. But we also know that our environment, our lifestyle choices is also important for our health. She reminded us that it was her job to teach us how to think critically, to make decisions, and to make informed choices. She said that if we wanted to change our destiny, we had to be in charge of our own lives and take responsibility for what we do with them. Let's take responsibility for our own future, she said. Let's make sure that we are eating healthy food, getting enough exercise and sleep, and being active in our communities. Let's make sure that we're not exposed to chemicals that can harm our brains or our bodies. She ended her lecture by saying that the best way to stay healthy was through good habits, which we could make together. We can learn together, she said. I'm always available if you have questions or you want to talk. After the class, Dr. Havanesian stayed behind to speak with Ms. Smith, who asked her to stay a few minutes after the end of class. She wanted to discuss the lecture with Dr. Havanesian privately, and she told the class to get out their laptops and keep working on the assignment they'd missed at the start of class. Ms. Smith asked Dr. Havanesian if she had any suggestions about how they could help the farmers in India. She suggested that they could get in touch with an organization called Pesticide Action Network International, which might have some ideas for them. They could also write to the government or organize a petition or protest. That sounds great, said Ms. Smith, but how should we go about doing it? Is it something that we should do as a class project? Or would it be better if we went and spoke with someone about it? It's a very complex issue, Dr. Havanesian replied. I'd be worried about how our ideas might be perceived by people who are involved in this. It's very important to have a clear understanding of the issues before you approach anyone. I'd suggest that you let me know what you decide to do.